Hello everyone. This is going to be a short video, just on some things I want you to know before you submit your any assignments for this week. Um, I'm going to upload a couple of things. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it today. Um, I figured I wouldn't hold you guys in the class, and well, I needed to do my meeting that starts in an hour. So. Uh, I better to just give you a kind of a quick video of what I just need for you guys to do. And if you have any questions, send me an email. On the email though, for the purposes of class, and I'll probably mention this in our physical meetings, um, I'd rather you guys just send me an email to my UTRGV email. Um, I just want to make sure that the emails are actually getting to me. I know some of you guys have already like emailed me, and if you emailed me through there, I've responded. Um, there seems to be an issue with the Blackboard email, so I'll check up on that a little bit later. Um, so what I want to do is just kind of go over the 2.1 module and see if there's any kind of anything I didn't talk about last time or I left out. So let me turn this around. This is a new Zoom, so okay, share. Share screen. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so we're looking at the 2.1 series 2.1. And last time I was reading an excerpt off of How to Tame a Wild Tongue, Gloria Anzaldua's um essay, and I don't think that we got to finishing that. I think the main part of the essay I wasn't able to complete that, so maybe I can just look at that real quick for you all. You can actually find the essay online um, if you wanted to reference it or something like that. So uh, it's How to Tame a Wild Tongue. And again, we pretty much covered most of the essay. We left off in the part where we're talking about like the linguistic characteristics of what she's talking about with um, the different contexts in which she speaks to individuals. And we mentioned that she has like 8 ways of the way that she understands how language sort of works in her uh, like in her life. And I don't want to deviate in kind of just in case we kind of maybe forgot what the purpose of this kind of reading would be for. Remember that we are working on our multimodal narrative, which is a subjective kind of piece that's talking about literacy. And this week's lecture was kind of centered, or this week's module was centered at looking at language and ideology and culture. And this has been kind of the conversation that we've been having, this week and last week also. So you can kind of, again, that the reason I'm kind of using Anzaldua as an example is so that you can understand how she sort of focuses on language and ideology in the way that, again, she understands uh, how literacy sort of has impacted her life, right? And one of the things she's doing um, in this essay, in How to Tame a Wild Tongue, is this idea that the language that she was kind of brought up with has been something that has struggled with. And toward the end of this essay, it sort of resembles like she's internalized all of this information, And now she's done the research on a lot of things and the way these, certain words come about from her culture. And now she's gonna sort of defend the way that she speaks. And under the Chicano Spanish subsection here, she continues, she's still kind of doing the looking at words linguistically and where they came from there. And This subsection, which I don't think we got to, linguistic terrorism, is kind of speaking along the lines of, again, sort of this kind of problematic way that she is seeing the language in her own lives, or in her own life. Um, and this is where she actually kind of states her thesis of the whole essay. Um, Chicanos who grew up speaking Chicano Spanish have internalized the belief that we speak poor Spanish. It is illegitimate, a bastard language, and because we internalize how our language has been used against us by the dominant culture, we use our language differences against each other. I remember she spoke on this earlier in the essay when she kind of started talking about, um, even in our own culture, you have individuals that sort of try to correct or try to, you know, uh, correct the way that we speak, um, kind of being brought up bilingually and things like that. Um, and I don't know if I talked about this last time, but it kind of reminded me about, um, the Selena movie where she's in the van with her brother and her dad, and they're sort of talking about not being from here nor there, that they always have to kind of live in this fringe, in this area where they have to be careful about how they speak and who they are as individuals, because like in the movie it states like they're not Mexican enough to be Mexican and they're not American enough to be American. So they're constantly trying to, you know, live in this dichotomy of these two cultures. Uh, again, here is where she kind of makes this. Um, I don't know. It seems to me like it's like a cathartic moment in the essay where um, she she gives the thesis of where she of all of this and what she believes. If a person Chicana or Latina has a low estimation of my native tongue, she also has a low estimation of me. Often with Mexicanas and Latinas, we'll all speak English as a neutral language. Even among Chicanas, we tend to speak English at parties or conferences. Yet at the same time, we're afraid that the other will think we're agringadas because we don't speak Chicano Spanish. We oppress each other, trying to out Chicano each other, vying to be the real Chicanas to speak like Chicanos. And again, I know some of you guys don't even speak Spanish, so I must imagine that you also sort of grew up with the type of with a special type of kind of upbringing, a subjective upbringing that viewed language maybe in a totally different way. So again, this is not just for the students in the class that sort of are bilingual. I think being brought up in a bicultural uh, demographic in a place where we're constantly living between two language has made an impression on us, whether we speak both languages or not, you know. Um, Here's where she kind of states the thesis. So if you want to really hurt me, talk badly about my language, ethnic identity is twin skin to linguistic identity. I am my language. Until I can take pride in my language, I cannot take pride in myself. Until I can accept as legitimate Chicano, Texas Spanish, Tex-Mex, and all other languages I speak, I cannot accept the legitimacy of myself. Until I am free to write bilingually and to switch codes without always having to translate, while I still have to speak English or Spanish when I would rather speak Spanglish. And as long as I have to accommodate the English speakers rather than having them accommodate me, my tongue will be illegitimate. I will no longer be made to feel ashamed of existing. I will have my voice, Indian, Spanish, white, I will have my serpent's tongue, my woman's voice, my sexual voice, my poet's voice. I will overcome the tradition of silence. Right? And it's kind of like a mic drop moment, where she again kind of shares that, you know, uh, no one is going to vindicate her or validate her as an individual unless they can accept these things about her. And she's no longer going to be made to feel ashamed of these things, right? And I think that that goes a long way to say something from what she kind of started off talking about at the beginning, where there was this kind of fear from the part of her mother to uh, try to say something about the way that she spoke, um, making a kind of having the fear of her mortalized that she spoke Spanish with an accent. That's what it said at the beginning of the essay. So think of languaging and the way that it's being discussed, maybe kind of correlated to what Anzaldua is saying in this essay. I'll go ahead and attach the PDF to the announcement page. So if you need to reference it again for any reason, it'll be there. All right. And the other thing I'm going to do, coming back to um, the uh, the 2.1 section, one of the things that's asking is how many languages do you speak? What are the language? The discussion in 2.1, which we should have done already, is referencing some of these questions as well. So um, make sure that you go in there and answer them and do the discussion. If you can't find the discussion with the links here, you can check over here on this side, on the left-hand side, and you just click on the discussions and it'll take you to the discussions. All right. The readings that we have here, although it would be great to try to kind of go over them, I'm not going to make these mandatory just because we'll need to move on probably by next week. Remember that some of the two videos that we have for this week is also trying to connect us to this idea of language and the role that it plays in our ideology, in our upbringing, in our experience. So feel free to connect the videos to anything that you might want to say in your multimodal literacy narrative. The discussion is the same one. The 2.1 discussion is the same one that we worked on last week. It just appears here also, and I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm just going to leave it there. Um, I could just hide it from there, but I'm just going to leave it just in case you haven't done it yet. It'll be there. One of the new things and one of the things I did not talk about last time is the multimodal literacy narrative self-assessment sheet. And I'm not going to try to sort of, just because we haven't met, I'm going to make this as easy as possible just for the assignment purpose. Whenever we have a major project like the narrative, like the theory of writing, like the artifact that we're going to do later, you're going to have a self-assessment. And it's just a way to do that. It's just a way to sort of evaluate whatever it is that we've done in the assignment. But I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible for you. So generally, you would go into the self-assessment. You can download it um, on here if you click on it. But it just asks you some categories, some different dimensions as they're listed here. The first one is dealing with inquiry, context, rhetorical choices, and risk taking. And all it's asking you is just where do you see your project as with regards to these dimensions. All right, and all you do is just generally just highlight whichever one you think where you're at, depending on how, because we're going to be working on these projects in terms of like a drafting process. It may not be as developed as it will be by the end of the semester. So again, depending on where you're at with this, if you've really spent a lot of time thinking about this and actually working on the project, it might be more developed than somebody else's. All right. Now, the thing I do want to relay just is the important thing that I would like for you to answer with the self-assessment is the last part, the questions that are listed under the reflection portion. According to the dimensions, what are the strengths of your draft? Where did you score the highest, depending on where you marked, each one of the dimensions. So again, it's just a reflection. It's nothing, nothing major. It's just kind of in hindsight. What do you think? Where do you think your project is stronger, um, and things like that. So this is due by Sunday, and again, I'm giving you guys this week to catch up, to finish up what you need to do. So make sure that you take the opportunity of, we're not going to meet today, but don't waste your time. Make sure that you are working on your information, on your assignments. The last thing is the end of series reflection. I did talk about this in our last meeting. This is going to be our first reflection that you're going to put in your portfolio. And this is due by Sunday. Again, these are just some questions related to this week's module. Some of the conversations that we've had, some of the things I've included in this little lecture. And again, this will be your series 2.1 reflection. Make sure that you are numbering these on your portfolio. So this is our first official reflection, our 2.1. Answer the questions. You can just go ahead and copy and paste these, and as long as you're answering them, that's fine. Again, you're going to include these reflections in your portfolio in the reflection section. And we're going to continue to build on these reflections as we go through the semester. So that is the last thing to do pretty much. All right. What I'm going to attach, a couple of things along with the video that I'm sharing. I'm going to include the Gloria Anzaldua PDF. And I'm also going to attach a couple of notes for last week's reading, the Deborah Brandt article. And this was talking about languaging and things like that. So I'm going to attach the notes for sponsors of literacy by Brent, which the reading should be included in 2.1. But on here, I'm giving you the notes so that you can kind of go over it along with the reading, especially with regards to the question on how languaging practices are ethical and unethical. In Brandt's article, they're talking about how there's a case study in which a couple of people are kind of affected by their socioeconomic kind of I guess upbringing or socioeconomic backgrounds. And it deals with basically in a pragmatic or just in a practical way, how some individuals are able to attain an education, are able to attain certain things because of social economic statuses, whether we're rich or we're poor and things like that. So it's looking at the effects of how being able to afford an education if affects the outcome sometimes of whether or not we're able to succeed. So she touches upon this kind of idea in the article. And again, I'm going to go ahead and include the notes so that I don't really have to touch upon anything specific. But the case study that's provided on there is kind of looking at this correlation between literacy or high literacy and a higher socioeconomics. And if you don't know what socioeconomics means, it's basically the relationship of economic factors that deal with money, jobs, and how that plays a role in society. Generally, I like to discuss socioeconomics and sociocultural. If we're talking about sociocultural, we're thinking about things like religion, art, anything that makes up culture, people, race, things like that. When we're looking at socioeconomics, we're looking at the relationship of the economics and society. And economics deals with sometimes jobs, deals with money, and to some extent deals with literacy. You know, sometimes higher literacy or lower literacy is dependent also on the economics of a place. So again, I'll have you guys kind of look over the notes. So if it, you know, I think it'll make a little bit more sense once you kind of go over the notes with regards to the ethical and unethical portion when we're looking at factors uh, that contribute to us sort of being able to afford an education and some people that are not able to, you know. The other reading I'm gonna go ahead and include, um, I don't even know if this reading is on there, but the Patanayak article. This one is, this article is really related to, I think I kind of tied it a lot into Anzaldua's essay. There's only one correct way of writing and speaking. If you remember at the beginning of the Anzaldua essay, um, she's told by somebody, I don't know if it was one of her teachers or somebody that said, if you want to live, if you want to speak, um, I say speak American, speak American. If not, go back to Mexico or something like that. So this article kind of engages with that kind of idea. Um, what we deem to be proper English. And I think we can also tie it down to kind of what Anzaldua says about those, you know, about even in our own culture, when we speak Spanish, there's this tendency to want, uh, yeah, those people think that we're butchering a language or something like that. Now I don't remember if the reading is in 2.1. I want to say that it is, or I want to say that it's in the reading listed for this week's module. But anyways, I'll look for it and then I'll just put it in the announcement. But again, all of these readings are supposed to kind of get you to kind of think about your own multimodal project. And that's really all I'm doing. I'm not trying to give you any extra reading just to give you extra reading. I'm really trying my best to try to give you some reading that'll get you to think about your own subjective interpretation on how you want to do the multimodal project. All right, this is going to be a continuing conversation, and everything that we're kind of studying and the readings that we're looking at might be some research that you might want to use later on anyways. All right. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end the video there, the lecture there. If you guys have any questions, again, send me an email. And I should have this posted by the time that class starts at 3:30. So I will see everybody next week. And again, I apologize for not being there this meeting today. We'll try to do our best to sort of catch up, and if there's any other questions, we'll try to answer when we meet next time. All right, I'll see you guys.